All right, perfect. So I'm Dr. Ben England, CEO and co-founder of Torrentia Medical Education, and I'm here with Dr. Kyle Palmer with RegenTech Physical Therapy up in Lewiston, Idaho. Kyle, our journeys have crossed a few times, and last year, you came to one of the first. In fact, you came to the first beta test of the orthobiological hacker. And you had sort of shared with me on past webinar episodes and other things, kind of your story. You were kind of getting ready to almost button up shop and kind of switch careers. I think you said you had a job interview lined up and you were ready to be out. And from what I've gathered, from private practice owners over the past couple of months, because I've had a privilege of meeting a lot of you, is many of you are feeling that way. And I think having this webinar is really important because we're going to kind of get a little real. You mentioned, in a previous conversation, the honeymoon phase is over, and what does life look like now? Cash practice, adding shockwave laser, so we're going to unpack some of that today. So why don't we just dive right in? What are some of the things, Kyle, that you've seen haven't gone so well, in terms of implementing shockwave laser, or really just completely rebranding your business as this regenerative medicine physical therapy office, which is awesome. I love it. But what are some things that didn't go very well? Because I know a lot of the business owners here are like, all we hear are good things. And come on, let's be real. Business is this. It's not,
Yeah.
a straight linear line. So what are some things that haven't gone well over the past year?
Um, like as a whole, it's been good. Like now I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, everything's good. No, as a whole, it's been good. But again, it doesn't like completely change the business and doesn't completely change everything. We doubled down on our marketing. We did a bunch of other stuff proactively with it that I think has helped kind of smooth that out. And we haven't had a bunch of like real downtimes or anything. Um, but I think that's part of it is that when we did rebrand, because we completely changed our name, logo, colors, everything, we completely rebranded. It was almost like we were starting over and starting new. And I was able to go, okay, what are the things over the last 5 years before we rebranded that I had screwed up on or didn't know? And I brought all of that in. So I think that actually helped it be a little bit smoother and not have a bunch of, I guess bad stuff or valleys come in. Um, but it's just been continuing that business struggle of, you know, that uncertainty of, oh, this week looks awesome. Next week,
Yep.
where's all my patients? And then
Mhm.
they come in and that cycle of, you know, I bring all these, I guess that's the big thing now that I'm thinking about it. We were new and we started this new technology and these new treatments, and we got a whole bunch of people right away. And it's like filled the schedule and everything looks good. And then, well, they start getting better and you start discharging them. And
Yep.
then you're going, wait, I just got rid of 4 people this week, and I haven't had 4 people calling in wanting therapy, right? And
Right.
that's the same with everything, right? So every private practice owner, PT clinic owner has the same issue with that.
Yep.
We're getting these people better, we're getting them better faster. That's not really good business from a
Right.
money standpoint. And so it probably actually has increased some of that a little bit, is because we are getting people better a little bit faster. We're constantly needing to hustle and find more people to get them in the doors so that we can keep our lights on.
Yep.
That's probably been the biggest struggle with it, is just maintaining and having to keep doing that.
So
But
let
like I
me,
said, go ahead.
no, yeah, go ahead.
We really tried to double down on our marketing and make it worth it, because that was the big thing. I was like, I'm taking this gamble here. I'm not stepping away. We're going in it. I'm like, then it's got to be done right. And, so our Facebook presence has increased, our ad marketing has increased, all those things have increased
Mhm.
to help smooth that out a little bit.
Yeah, so what you're saying is the stuff works, but because it works about 33% better on most orthopedic musculoskeletal conditions with laser and shockwave, obviously filling the schedule continues to be an issue.
Yeah.
Um, Now, I think that all of us as solo practitioners, as individuals who have our own businesses, myself included, we've all kind of run into the, well, do I sell packages? Do I, charge a separate fee for shockwave or for laser? In my practice, I'm flat fee, in terms of I just include everything. It's all included. There's no upsell, there's no downsell, but every time I add new technology, you do have to increase your price. And for some of you providers, if you want to know what that price increase is, if you add a shockwave unit to your clinic, it's approximately $12.50 per treatment that you need to increase your price just to break even. If you want to increase profit margin, you may have to double that to increasing your prices 20 to 25 to $30. What did you do, Kyle? I mean, how are you guys doing it?
So we did it the same way as you. I'm a horrible salesman, so I didn't feel like I wouldn't have been successful having somebody in a treatment and then being like, oh, and if we add $20 to your appointment today, we can do this.
Right.
I'm not comfortable with that. So I did what you mentioned. We raised our prices as kind of part of that rebrand. We just raised our prices to account for
Yep.
the cost of the new devices and just added that to evals and treatments. We did create a 30-minute treatment session that we
Mhm.
do is primary modality based.
Okay.
So that was a new addition that we did to it, to just for those instances where somebody's already working out, they're already doing the things that are going to help them get better, but that shockwave or laser or the dry needling that we do is an adjunct to what they're already doing, so they can just come in and get those treatments.
Yep.
Those have been with our clientele and our community, those have been a really big addition for us,
Sure.
bringing those in because people don't want to come in. They're already going to the CrossFit gym 3, 4 days a week. They don't want to come in and exercise. We'll tweak
Yep.
that. Like we'll go over what they're doing and I'll tweak things. And I'm like, great, you're already doing it. Go do it. But you need to come in for these treatments.
Yep.
And then they're 30 minutes in and out, and they
Hmm.
really like those. So those have been a good addition. I usually try to package those more than bring people in case by case, appointment by appointment for 30 minutes. Those are usually a package deal of a 6 or 10 visit
Yep.
package of 30-minute appointments.
Cool.
Um,
Yeah. I would say that, one of the things that, in talking with a lot of private practices, one of the big struggles that clinicians have had is when they have staff that work for them, and I know you do, Kyle, motivating the staff to sell. And I hate using that term, but when we are a fee for service, like people are paying us for our services, I had to think of a way of reframing it with providers who were just sitting there, arms crossed, going, "Well, I'm not going to sell this. Like, I'm just going to go visit to visit." And it doesn't work that way. And we've really been trying to reframe it in terms of patients are buying the outcome. It immediately shifts all of the healthcare thought process to it's all about the outcome and it's not about the cost. It's sort of like if you had, let's say you had septic arthritis of your knee and you were going to die and lose your leg and all the above, or lose your leg or die. And the doctor comes in and says, "Hey, it's going to be $50,000. I can save your leg and you're not going to die." I don't think there's a person in the room that wouldn't try to find a way to make that work, whether it's a payment plan or whether it's a home equity line of credit. Like you would find a way to make that work. When it comes to musculoskeletal things, it's not exactly dire straits for most people, but there is that element of you're going to get better 33% faster. And this is what I tell my providers to tell people, you're going to get better 33% faster. And you're paying a premium for it, but you're not going to be here for 6 months. You're going to be here for 6 weeks. And really shifting that mindset of it's not about selling the package, it's about selling the outcome. It's like patients come in with plantar fasciitis. Oh, I've been dealing with this for 6 months. I'm miserable. I've tried the straps at night. I've had the injections. I've seen the podiatrist. I've, gone to the chiropractor. I've been adjusted. All of those things are great, but they're like, my foot still hurts. And you're like, okay, well, the evidence says 4 to 6 visits of shockwave, and we should have you rocking, coupled with conservative physical therapy. Like, you'll be good in 6 weeks. And the patient goes, really? Yeah, I think pretty confidently. I mean, close to 80, 90%, per the literature, you should be good in about 6 weeks. And just having that confidence for patients and just you're selling the outcome, patients generally don't care what it costs because I'm going to give a proof of principle study real quick. I'm in Fort Wayne, Indiana. There are about 37 physical therapy offices within 20 miles of me. Highly saturated market, lots of cash practices here, blue collar town, so not exactly high socioeconomic status. And it's working here. Hey, Kyle, how big is your city that you're in?
Uh, the two towns are right on the border, so there's kind of two towns, but it's about 45, 50,000 people.
Yeah, so you're talking a, basically a sixth of my market size, and you've got a laser and a shockwave in your office, and you have another therapist, and you guys are doing well, in terms of new patient flow, you're getting your marketing processes in place. It can be done. And I just, for everybody that's doubtful in the Torrentia tribe, everybody that's doubtful, it is doable, but it takes grind. Kyle, what were you doing before we got on this webinar?
Social media posting, all looking at going over some financial stuff, looking at schedules, planning ahead. Yeah, all
Yep.
kinds of it was all business stuff today.
Right. So you're still hustling from a social media standpoint. You're still hustling from a
Yeah.
marketing standpoint. You're working on building referrals. Talk to me about some of those new referrals you've been getting for because of your technology.
Yeah, so we're starting to see, as a cash-based clinic prior to this, we weren't out really pushing referrals with other providers for a couple different reasons here in our community. But now that we've got this stuff and it works, and some of the other providers know about these technologies and that they work, we're starting to get actual referrals from physicians that we haven't actually reached out to in the past, but they know that we have this technology now. So we're getting referrals specifically saying shockwave, Achilles tendinopathy, shockwave, plantar fasciitis, the stuff
Mm.
that they know that it works on, and they're seeing it and going, oh, well, they have that. They've heard that we have that. So now they're seeking us out instead of
Right.
us having to go and beg them to remember to send people our way. So it's
Yeah.
been that part's been pretty cool to see that. Um,
So you didn't go to the breakthrough event, Kyle, but you kind of were aware of the breakthrough event that happened, a couple weeks ago. I'm going to give you some secret sauce tips that I gained. In fact, some of them were my own things that I threw in because I was one of the speakers. But here are a couple of things that you can do differently. Here was the best way that I reactivated and increased my referrals without spending a dime. I made a marketing mistake. In fact, give me 1 second, I'll show it to you. I made a marketing mistake, and that marketing mistake was I bought one too many of these bands for some of my runners. And I can show you this here. We'll see if my camera will recalibrate to my face. Maybe not. I bought one too many, you know, there we go. Perfect. One too many of these bands, if you can see them. That kind of advertise our new website. We kind of had a new website launch. We bought a bunch of these for a marathon, and a half marathon and a cycle that we were going to just hand these out to runners, right? Well, it poured down rain. Nobody showed up, and basically, I ended up with about 9,000 to 9,500 of these things, just sitting around, right? So what I did is I put these bands in the lobby with a sign, and I basically just said, hey, if you have a loved one that's in pain, like they can come in and try a laser or shockwave, just free of charge. Like they can come in, like if you want them to try it, they've got an issue, like obviously they can come in to be screened and we can go through that process. and obviously check your state practice acts because of ethics and morals and different things. I know some people do like a discount, or whatever if they bring one of these in, whatever it is. And last year, my patient volume was around 400 unique patients because obviously, with Torrentia and some other things that I'm doing, it's a little busy. I now have over 1,000 unique patients that have come through the door, so and I mean, in terms of unique people coming through the door, that's a super simple, cheap, easy
Yeah.
way because who better to sell your outcomes than your patients who are already doing well? You
Yeah.
can also do like some gifts, for people. Like you could give these as graduation presents, when people are done, hey, if you ever want to come back, like bring it back for half off your eval or whatever in the future. I mean, whatever that looks like, you have to find a way to reactivate those patients
Yeah.
that know you, they like you, they got a good outcome. You have to keep them engaged.
Yeah, you
Um,
do.
One of the other things that we really discussed heavily was some new and alternative ways of adding, let's just call it adding revenue streams to your practice. And one of the revenue streams that came up frequently is people were asking about FullScript. FullScript is
Yeah.
a supplement company. They do have software, but like it's free for providers if you just want to use their web page version. And really, if you're in a state where you're allowed to talk about nutrition and other things, like you don't even have to, you're not prescribing it. But if your patients buy creatine, if your patients buy protein and the stuff that they're already getting at Costco, FullScript things are third party tested. You can set a profit margin, put a QR code in your lobby. You don't have to say a word. Just want to stock up on your protein, get 15% off, from our FullScript, dispensary, for your practice. It's revenue for you and it's cheaper than Amazon for your patients. It's a super easy, down to earth way to make more revenue without having to spend a dime. Um, and then one of the last things that, was really kind of the crux of of what we talked about at that conference, or at least what people asked me about was, excuse me, how do I make sure that moving forward in 2026 that I stay relevant? There's a lot of practices now with shockwave. There's a lot of practices with laser. There's some marketing in terms of low intensity laser versus high intensity laser. People say, oh, I bought an infrared on Amazon. It's the same thing. And there's a lot of misinformation out there. And providers, I think, are struggling because they're now competing for ad dollars and other things with these clinics that don't really have the real McCoy. And one of the things that we talked about in order to stay relevant was helping your patients really understand that narrative. And what I mean by that is I literally have one sheets. They're in the other room. Otherwise, I'd go and grab them. I'm kind of tethered here. The one sheets are basically the difference between radial shockwave and focus shockwave. Then they're laminated. And I explain to patients the difference between the two. Like, hey, here's your one you can get on Amazon. Here's the calibration issue that you have. Here's why the intensity isn't as high. Just educating patients on that. And then it's funny because then the patient will be talking with a loved one at dinner and they're like, oh, yeah, I ordered this shockwave thing offline. And they're like, well, did you know that that's only, an eighth or a tenth of the power of a focus shockwave device? And those patients can tell your story better. And I also did a one sheet on the difference between infrared class 3, like cold laser versus high intensity laser, like you have in your office. And the
Hmm.
one sheet is explaining to patients the key differences between those two. And it's been a game changer because patients come in and they're like, oh, I can use my infrared sauna and it's going to help, but it's only going to do this much. But what you're
Yeah.
doing is really, here are the 6 FDA approvals or 5 FDA approvals that it has, and here's how it's helping. So, really educating your patients is huge in terms of the technology because they'll be your best salespeople ever, especially if you're getting the outcomes.
Yeah, that's true because we're not staying relevant for us in this area right now, at least for the time being, is we're not trying to stay relevant against the other PT clinics in our valley because
Yep.
none of them are bringing this stuff in. But it's all the health and wellness and longevity and
Yep.
the med spas and all of that are starting to bring in similar things. And again, I use that, I educate them with the laser all the time because they're like, oh, well, what isn't this like those red light things you can stick on your leg? And I'm like, well, no, here's why, here's the differences. And a lot of it is like, I like to use the time example. Like, well, yeah, if you're going to use that,
Yep.
you're gonna need to wear it for 60 plus hours to equal what we do in 2 minutes here, right? Or so, give
Right.
an example like that. And then they're like, oh, wait, so this is legit. Like
Yep.
these work differently. Yeah,
Yep.
that's the trick.
Yeah. You guys definitely kind of have a lock because you've got pelvic floor specialist in your clinic, right? You guys are doing pelvic floor therapy.
Yeah.
You're doing the regenerative medicine, you're doing shockwave and laser. What are some things that you want other private practice owners like yourself to know who may be on the fence about going into OBH, who may be on the fence about adopting new technology in their clinic? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Um, the big thing with us is it created a niche for us. Um, you know, and which is I think that's really important to do when especially if you're a small private practice, especially if you're cash based, is you really have to niche down smaller
Yep.
than you think. Which is hard to do because I didn't do that when I started. It was like the phone rang and somebody who's interested in coming in, please come in. Please come in. Like I didn't care what I was trying to help you with. It didn't matter. I was just trying to get people in the door.
Yep.
Um, and as it evolved, I did start to niche down more and more and more and more, but we still look different, or we still look the same to the outside world.
Yep.
Bringing in a pelvic floor therapist that made us extremely different. And then once we added that technology and started calling ourselves regenerative physical therapists and that stuff, that really narrowed it down. And so I think if you are trying to bring something in or you're going to do something different or add something to the clinic, it's got to fit that niche, or it has to be a new one that you're bringing on to again to differentiate you and help you stay relevant
Yep.
in that. Otherwise, if it doesn't match what you're trying to niche down to or the people you're trying to help, it's just going to sit in the corner gathering dust, just like everything else and all the other
Right.
traditional clinics are doing, right? Like they've got an ultrasound unit buried somewhere. They've got some other piece of technology that they were like, oh, this is going to be really good, and then it doesn't fit with their clients or whatever, and then it just sits in a storage closet forever.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, definitely. Well, what are some of the other things? I know we had just talked about kind of like looking ahead, staying relevant. You said niche down. In terms of practices that maybe they have the technology, maybe they've got some of the training, but they really don't know what to do with that, meaning how to market and all of that. Like if you would tell them how you would go about doing it, I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, so from our marketing standpoint, we really push the time component, the
Mhm.
33% faster. Like we're going to get you feeling better faster. We're going to get you back to what you're doing faster. And then backing that up with some of the research and the different things like that. I really used it. The big thing that I use for both of those things is that pain management component.
Mhm.
um, you know, and I tell so many people, and I've had so many people come through my clinic through the years that they come in with knee pain and they're like, I know I need to lose weight and I know I need to exercise more, but every time I do, my knee flares up, right?
Yep.
And it hurts. And it's like, and I tell them, well, okay, like we need to address that first then.
Yep.
Like they know that they need to exercise. They know that they're overweight. Like they don't need to be preached that same stuff again over and over and over
Mhm.
again because they already know it. And so we push the pain modulating benefits of it to say, great, I'm hearing you. You want to exercise, you want to do these things. How about we just take care of the pain first?
Right.
Let's get that knee not hurting so that you can actually do the stuff that you already know that you need to do and that you want to do
Mhm.
because you want to get better, but we're not going to flare you up. And
Right.
adding that component to it, that's a great way for us to sell this stuff that we have is let's get you just feeling better first.
Yep.
Pain inhibits muscles. We all know that. So then why are we telling people they need to exercise more when they're in pain? Because it's not going to work. They're not going
Yep.
to get stronger
Right.
until we get rid of that pain component. And the funny thing is I tried to do that for years and years and years, but we weren't great at it. Like we
Yep.
had manual therapy techniques, we had these other things, but now with this technology that it actually does it and they feel better. And to see the look on people's faces when they don't believe it, right?
Right.
And then you give them a free laser treatment and they get up and they get this weird look on their face like, holy crap, I actually do feel better.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, it's pretty.
we have an intern here with us right now, an undergrad intern. And the first time I lasered him, he was so skeptical. It was hilarious. And he's like, yeah, my back's always sore. I'm like, cool. Throw the laser on his back and he gets up and he just almost started laughing because he was like, wait, it actually feels better. How did that
Yep.
work? And it's just like, so that's a huge way to benefit this stuff is selling it from that perspective of we're gonna just let's get you feeling better.
Yep. Well, I'm going to do a little bit of a kind of a, we'll just call it a gut check, like honest, the best way possible, ask this question. What do you feel the value of the $1,000 OBH course has been to your practice?
For me, it's been well worth that. Because if I not gone to that first OBH course, I probably wouldn't have this clinic anymore. On like in all honesty, you touched on it from our previous webinar, but I went to that first OBH course and then had an interview that next Monday with
Yep.
a university. I was going to go into higher ed, and just and then I couldn't do it. I had to give this one more shot. So that alone, like, there's no value on that because this is what I love doing, and I was going to give it up for something else. So yeah, there's no value to that from me. Um, from a financial standpoint, um, running our revenue numbers this year, we started this stuff in June and there was a significant spike from June through the rest of the year. Um, almost double or tripled my normal yearly growth. I've grown every year that I've been in business by I was happy with the growth every year, but then to see what it did over the final 6 months of the year after we brought this stuff in and changed our approach to things, it was 2 to 3 times more than what the normal growth had been for us. So, um, those are two things that, yeah, it's completely added value to us and has been worth the initial investment.
Yeah. Can I ask one more question about it that I know everybody's always dying to know who is contemplating buying laser or shockwave? Um, are you getting any closer to paying off your units with those numbers?
Uh, I I would be doing really well. Like it's paying it off is no problem. But part of I guess one of the other things that has happened with us, it was me and Tara, the two therapists here, but we actually had to bring on a front desk person
Yep.
this fall to handle that. So that's all money, the necessary money that would have gone to paying off that stuff much faster, but now we're paying somebody to work for us, which it's totally worth it, but that's slowed that down a little bit, but it is going to get paid off ahead of time.
So
Um,
in relevant business circles, what I'm hearing you say is it's afforded you the opportunity to scale your business.
yeah,
You now no longer have to worry about scheduling because you have the margin to bring on another employee who's able
yes,
to help offset that and help you so that now instead of you doing that, you're able to see more people and or Tara is able to see more people and the focus is patient care and growing your business for you and for Tara, patient care. It's no
yeah,
longer, well, we have to do the front desk jobs and this job and that task. It's created margin for you, which is really awesome. I mean, that's really what our hope is as clinics adopt this, it's kind of like when you want to go buy a new car nowadays, your payment's going to be like 600 to $1,000 a month. And you're like, oh, I want this new car because it makes me happy. So you go out and buy a new car. But the minute as a business owner, you're like, oh man, adding equipment that it's going to be $800 a month, like, am I going to be able to make that? It's like, it's a no-brainer if you if you simply raised your cost, you know, $10 over a whole month. How much more money did that create? If you're doing 120 visits in a month, well, there's $1,200 right there if you just raised your prices $10. So
Yeah.
finding the margin isn't usually the issue. It's people have an emotional attachment to, well, I don't want to spend money because what if it fails? Like that's the big thing. People don't want to fail. But if I'm doing it in Fort Wayne, Indiana, you're doing it in Lewiston, Idaho, sky's the limit, right? We're getting ready to test out a new project with our folks, Bruce and Helena, Montana. Like we're about to do literally a beta test of seeing start to finish how quick can it go and give people that toolkit in the tribe just so that they know how to do that. So but well, thanks so much, Kyle. I really do appreciate you always hopping on calls. It's always fun to get to rekindle and reconnect with you. I love what you're doing. I'm super happy to see the new clinic. I'm happy you didn't throw in the towel. Terrifying statistic the other day. 26% of people in our profession in the next year probably aren't going to be here,
Yeah.
because they're just going to leave the profession. And that's pretty sad because we already have a shortage and the gap's not getting any smaller.
No.
And people are now self-selecting out of being a physical therapist because the debt's too great, or they just don't see the fun in it because the insurance relationships are so tough to deal with. And like what I'm hearing you say is there is hope. So it's always good to talk with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Good to talk to you again.
So, well, thanks, Kyle. If people maybe want to get a hold of you, they can just message you in the tribe. Like you guys can
Yep.
tag Kyle if you've got a question for him. I know he's always involved and active in there, and we'd love to engage more, especially if you're a solopreneur and you're interested in adding shockwave or laser. I'm sure Kyle would be more than happy to give you a couple of pointers as you start. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
all right, thanks, Kyle. Appreciate you.
Yep. Thanks.